Hey there. So, picture this. You're on a date and everything seems perfect. They're charming, funny, and saying all the right things. You start thinking, wow, maybe this is it. But then, there's this little nagging feeling in your gut. Something feels off. You brush it aside because, come on, they're great, right? But weeks or maybe months later, that little gut feeling turns into a full-blown node. Oh no, what have I gotten myself into? Listen, I've been there, and I know how easy it is to miss the red flags when you're caught up in the excitement of getting to know someone new. That's why today, we're diving into something I wish I'd learned way earlier. How to spot dating red flags before it's too late. Because let's face it, ignoring the signs can cost you time, energy, and worst of all, your peace of mind. So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's have a real talk about what you need to look out for when you're dating. Sometimes the signs are subtle, but once you know what to watch for, you'll never ignore them again. Okay, let's start with something that's often overlooked. How they talk about their past relationships. This one is huge. You're sitting across from them, and somehow the conversation turns to their ex. Do they blame their ex for everything that went wrong? Do they use words like crazy, toxic, or psycho without taking any accountability for their own actions? Let me tell you, this isn't just a casual comment, it's a glimpse into how they handle conflict in relationships in general. If someone's entire narrative revolves around how horrible their ex was, and they never stop to mention, hey, I could have handled this better, or I learned from this, that's a giant, waving red flag. It tells you they may not take responsibility for their part in things. And honestly, that's not the kind of partner you want. Oh, and let's not forget, how they talk about others in general says a lot about how they'll treat you. If they're rude to waitstaff or constantly gossiping about their friends, it might feel like nothing at first, but eventually, that energy will find its way to you. Now here's another one that hits close to home: inconsistency. Let me explain. In the beginning, everything feels magical, right? They're calling, texting, making plans, and you feel like you're on cloud nine. But then, they start to pull back. Maybe their texts get shorter, or they stop initiating plans as often. You start wondering, is it something I did? Nope. This isn't about you, it's about them. Inconsistency isn't just about how often they text or call. It's about whether their actions match their words. If someone says, I'm serious about getting to know you, but their behavior doesn't reflect that, like canceling plans at the last minute or only reaching out when it's convenient for them, pay attention. Actions always speak louder than words, and consistent effort is the bare minimum for a healthy relationship. Here's one I know a lot of us overlook, because it's wrapped up in charm: love bombing. You know the type. Grand gestures, constant compliments, and saying things like, I've never felt this way about anyone before way too soon. It feels flattering, right? But here's the thing. Love bombing isn't about genuine connection. It's about control. When someone overwhelms you with attention and affection early on, it's easy to get swept off your feet. But ask yourself, why the rush? Healthy relationships take time to build. If they're already planning your future together on the second date or saying, I can't live without you, before they even know your middle name, that's not romance. It's manipulation. Watch for this one because it often starts sweet but can quickly turn sour. Now, let's talk about something that's a little harder to spot: how they handle boundaries. Boundaries are a non-negotiable part of any relationship, but not everyone respects them. And it can show up in small ways. Maybe you mention that you're busy one weekend, and instead of understanding, they guilt trip you. Or maybe they push you to share things about yourself that you're not ready to share yet. Someone who respects you will always respect your boundaries. They won't pressure you, make you feel bad, or try to cross lines you've set for your own comfort. If you feel like you have to defend your boundaries or explain yourself constantly, that's a clear sign they're not respecting you the way they should. Here's the thing I really want you to take away from this. Noticing red flags isn't about being overly critical or expecting perfection. It's about protecting your energy and knowing your worth. No one is perfect. Dating isn't about finding someone without flaws, but it is about finding someone who's self-aware, respectful, and willing to grow with you. And trust me, When you start paying attention to these red flags early on, you save yourself so much heartbreak later. You don't have to wait until things get messy to walk away. You deserve to feel safe, respected, and valued right from the start. Look, I know it's not always easy to see these things when you're in the middle of it. Sometimes we want to believe the best in people, and that's not a bad thing. But here's my advice. Always listen to your gut. If something feels off, don't ignore it. It's better to ask questions and take your time than to look back and wish you had. Dating is a journey, and there's no rush to get it right. The right person will understand that. They'll show up consistently, respect your boundaries, and make you feel like the best version of yourself. You know what else we don't talk about enough? How people handle the word no. Seriously, this one's a game changer. Imagine you're out with someone and they suggest something you're not into. Maybe a second drink, going back to their place, or even something as simple as trying sushi when you're not a fan. You politely decline, but instead of accepting it, they push. Come on, just try it, they say, or worse, they get defensive, acting like you're ruining the vibe. Here's the thing, how someone reacts to no tells you everything about their character. Someone who respects you will hear no and say, cool, no problem. They'll pivot without making you feel bad about it. But someone who can't handle rejection, no matter how small, might turn that discomfort into manipulation. And it may start off with something minor, but over time, it can escalate into more serious boundary pushing. That's not a path you want to go down. And speaking of pushing boundaries, let's talk about control. Control can sneak in under the radar when you're not paying attention. Maybe they casually comment on what you're wearing, saying things like, "Oh, I don't think that outfit really suits you." Or they start asking why you're texting certain friends so often. At first, it can feel like they're just being attentive or protective, but over time, it starts to feel suffocating. A friend of mine went through this with someone who seemed perfect at the beginning. He'd say things like, "I just care about you so much. I want to make sure you're safe." And at first she thought, wow, he's so thoughtful. But then it turned into constant check-ins, like, where are you? Who are you with? And eventually he started isolating her from her friends and family. By the time she realized what was happening, it felt too overwhelming to get out. Control doesn't always show up as something dramatic. It can be subtle, disguised as care or concern, which is why it's so important to recognize it early. If you ever feel like someone's trying to dictate your choices, whether it's what you wear, who you spend time with, or even how you spend your free time, pause and ask yourself, does this feel like love or does it feel like control? Because love doesn't trap you. Love gives you the freedom to be yourself. Okay, let's lighten this up for a second, because I want to share something funny, but also very real. Have you ever been on a date where the other person just can't stop talking about themselves? Like, they're 20 minutes into a detailed story about their last trip to Cabo, and you're sitting there thinking, did they even ask me how my day was? Here's the deal. Relationships are a two-way street. If someone is consistently steering every conversation back to themselves without showing genuine interest in getting to know you, that's a red flag. Sure, everyone's nervous on a first date, and some people talk a lot when they're anxious. But over time, pay attention to whether they actually care about your thoughts, your feelings, and your life. A relationship where you feel like you're just an audience member to their personal highlight reel, that's not a relationship. That's a monologue, and trust me, you deserve better than that. Now I want to talk about something that can be tricky to spot: emotional unavailability. You know the type. They're there physically, but emotionally, it's like trying to talk to a brick wall. Maybe they avoid deeper conversations, or they shut down anytime you bring up feelings or the future. Let me tell you, I've fallen for this before. There was this girl who seemed amazing, funny, successful, charming. But every time I tried to open up about something important, she'd change the subject or make a joke to deflect. At first I thought, oh, maybe she's just not ready to go deep yet. But after months of tiptoeing around real conversations, I realized she wasn't just ready, she was unwilling. Here's the thing, a healthy relationship requires emotional availability. It's about both people being willing to share, listen, and grow together. If you find yourself always giving emotionally while they're holding back, that imbalance will wear you out over time. You deserve someone who meets you where you are, emotionally and otherwise. I know all of this can sound overwhelming, especially if you've ignored some of these signs in the past. But let me tell you something. Noticing red flags isn't about being paranoid or expecting the worst in people. It's about knowing your worth and setting a standard for how you deserve to be treated. And don't beat yourself up if you've missed these signs before. I've missed plenty myself. The important thing is that you're here, learning, and doing better for yourself moving forward. That's something to be proud of. You know, at the end of the day, spotting red flags isn't about being cynical or expecting people to fail you. It's about trusting yourself enough to recognize what you need, what feels right, and when something just isn't sitting well with you. You're not being too picky for wanting a healthy, respectful relationship. You're protecting your heart, your energy, and your peace, and that's something worth doing. Here's the beautiful thing. Once you start paying attention to these little signs early on, you'll notice how much easier it becomes to let go of situations that aren't serving you. And when you do that, you make space for the right people to come into your life. People who show up consistently, respect your boundaries, and make you feel seen and valued. And let me just say this. You don't need to justify walking away from someone who doesn't feel right for you. Even if there's no huge reason, your gut instinct is reason enough. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing yourself and prioritizing your happiness. I want to leave you with this thought. Relationships, whether they're romantic, platonic, or anything in between, are supposed to add to your life, not drain you. They should feel like a safe place where you can show up as your true self without fear of judgment or rejection. If something feels off, don't ignore it. If you notice red flags, don't talk yourself out of them. You have the power to decide what you will and won't accept in your life. And here's the best part. Every step you take toward recognizing these patterns and trusting yourself makes you stronger and more confident. You're building the kind of awareness that will not only protect you, but also attract the kind of people who deserve to be in your life. Look, dating can be messy, it can be confusing, but it's also this incredible journey of learning more about yourself, what you want, and what you absolutely won't settle for. Every experience, good or bad, teaches you something. And every time you honor your gut feeling or walk away from a situation that doesn't feel right, you're setting yourself up for something better. So take these red flag tips with you, not as a checklist to judge people by, but as tools to protect your energy and peace. And remember, the right person for you won't come with flashing red lights. They'll feel like a warm, steady glow. All right, my friend, that's a wrap for today. I really hope this helped you feel a little more confident about navigating the dating world. And if it did, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who might need this reminder too. Let's spread the word that we're done ignoring the red flags. If you've got your own stories, times when you caught a red flag, or maybe even missed one, drop them in the comments. Let's get real about this stuff because, honestly, we've all been there and we can all learn from each other. And hey, if you're enjoying these chats, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We've got so much more to talk about when it comes to love, dating, and building the life you deserve. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. You've got this, and don't ever forget, you are worthy of love that feels safe, steady, and true. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care of yourself, stay true to what you need, and keep shining.